morning, and welcome to Peps at Your Place. But first, in spirit of Fijian Language Week, Nisa Bolovinaka, Naidangu Kotusua Kaswanga, and Singatambu Vinaka. Today's service of Peps at Your Place is a very special service because today it's being held by our very own 360 Youth. If you're unaware of what 360 Youth is, 360 is Pepster's high school and youth ministry, and they're very excited to share with you some powerful messages through song, dance, and testimonies. So let's go. Now that we're all comfortable, do you have your breakfast? Oh, thank you. I'd like to take this time to appreciate our lead pastor, Karen, or as I call her, Auntie Karen. She has led Pepster through all our online services, something that has never been done before. So, Auntie Karen, you are the best, you are amazing, and you do everything you do with love. So when I say pasta, you say Karen. Pasta.
Karen!
Pasta.
Karen!
Pasta.
Karen!
Okay, thank you. Once again, our community team has continued to help those in need. Big thanks to those organizations that have partnered with us to get those much needed groceries out there. Here are just some of the photos of what we were able to do this week.
Miracles when you move, such an easy thing for you to do. And your hand is moving right now. You are still showing up at the tomb of every Lazarus. And your voice is calling me.
I find it really cool that we get to partner with so many different organizations to make a big difference, especially ADRA. ADRA has an initiative this month that we get to help them with. During the month of October, we get to help them during their fundraising month. So check out this awesome video, how you can help.
ADRA's mission is to serve humanity so all may live as God intended. We go where it's needed most and shine love and light into the darkest corners. We keep children in schools, ensure families have clean water and food, and people have the opportunities to live a thriving life free from poverty and hardship. In 2020, when the world stopped, ADRA didn't. With your support, we helped 20 million people globally that had been impacted by COVID-19. And right here in New Zealand, we partnered with 35 of our churches to help over 1,100 Kiwi families during lockdown in 2020. Alongside this, we're helping Kiwi families through our 34 church projects, helping another 2,800 families. Families like MJ's. Through attending community dining, MJ found a safe space for her and her children to eat and enjoy community. Next week, all of the offerings from our churches across New Zealand will be investing in the work of ADRA. Your support will ensure that together we can shine love and light where it's needed most. Please prepare to give or donate online today by scanning the code on screen or going to adra.org.nz/shine. Thank you.
So perhaps the family, I encourage you to get behind ADRA and support them. Every dollar counts. So I thank you so much for being part of making a big change for the better. As you heard last week, it's come to the time of year where we want to invite you to think about where God wants you to lead next year. So if you or a person you know has a passion in serving Epic, 360, or the worship team, we'd love to hear from you. So go to our website on papster.co.nz. Send them to Karen by Monday, and you're set. We finally made it, guys. So let's just jump right into the program. But for the first time ever, I need to read the script. So thank you. What do we have up? We have Epic Time. We also have Your Place, Your Story with our very own 360 Life group. And we have some very enjoyable music and dance performances later on. So let's just get comfortable. Pillows, please. Oh, thank you very much. Well, right up
is epic time, so let's go.
Tēnā koutou tamariki. Kei te pēr he koe? Hey, tēnā pai. Well, today we are talking about being brave. Tell me what you think it means to be brave. Yes, it's all of those things, isn't it? Ka pai e hoa. It's doing something even though you are scared. Well, here's a pātai, a question for you. What helps you to be brave? Oh wow, those are really good answers. When my daughter was very small, she had a little friend to help her when she needed to be brave. Do you want to meet him? Okay, here he is. This is Doggy. She used to call him Dogger-Wogs. Look at him. Do you know that he is now 29 years old? And boy, has he seen some things. Look, his nana even had to knit a little cardie for him because his body is actually now see-through. Well, do you know Doggy didn't always look like this? He was actually purple. Funny, eh? That just goes to show how loved he was. Well, my daughter would take Dogger-Wogs everywhere she went, and she always used to hold him very close when she needed some help. He helped her overcome her fears and have courage so that she could be brave. And our story today is all about being brave, but that's coming up a little bit later. First, we're going to jump up and get ready for today's song, and it's actually called I've Got a Friend. Well, are you ready, Doggy? Yes, I'm ready.
My silly faces, my goofy grin, my funny dances, my messy hair, my silly faces, my goofy grin, my funny dances. I've got a friend in Jesus. He loves everything about me. I've got a friend in Jesus. He loves everything about me. When I get scared, you make me braver. You are my friend forever. When I get scared, you make me braver. You are my friend forever. Oh, I've got a friend in Jesus. He loves everything about me. I've got a friend in Jesus. He loves everything about me. Yeah. All right. Hey, who knows where your head is? What about your shoulders? Can you point to your knees and your toes? Awesome, let's do it together. My head and shoulders, knees and toes. He loves everything about me. My eyes and ears and mouth and nose. He loves everything about me. My head and shoulders, knees and toes. He loves everything about me. My eyes and ears and mouth and nose. He loves everything about me. Everybody sing. I've got a friend in Jesus. He loves everything about me. I've got a friend in Jesus. He loves everything about me. Oh, I've got a friend in Jesus. He loves everything about me. Loves me. I've got a friend in Jesus. He loves everything about me. Yeah. Oh, 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 oh.
The Lion Inside. In a dry, dusty place where the sand sparkled gold stood a mighty flat rock, all craggy and old. And under the rock, in a tiny full house, lived the littlest, quietest, meekest mouse. He was so very tiny, so incredibly small, that nobody noticed him ever at all. He got trod on and sat on, and missed out for stuff, ignored and forgotten. Yes, mouse life was tough. Meanwhile, far above, on top of the rock, times were different. It was lion o'clock. This huge, toothsome creature made sure everyone saw how important he was by how loud he could roar. He was head of the pack. He was shouty and tough. He loved showing the crowd he was made of strong stuff. Yes, all were impressed by this mighty king cat. But if only, thought Mouse, I could be more like that. Then, late one dark night, in his Minnie Mouse bed, the cleverest thought popped into his head. He jumped from the covers and held up a paw. I've got it, he said. What I need is a roar. I mean, what if this mouse was the weeniest squeak? Was a little more grrr and a little less meek? Well, he'd still be the smallest of fuzzy brown mice, but he'd make some friends and join in, and life would be nice. Yes, thought the mouse, I must find out how. I will learn how to roar, and I will learn it now. But, oh my gosh, there was only one beast who could teach him this thing, but might make him a feast. It was time to be strong. Take a chance. After all, forever was such a long time to feel small. So he made himself brave, and he thought like a winner. He set off to the top, hoping not to be dinner. It felt like the scariest thing he could do, but if you want things to change, you have to change you. The further he climbed, the closer he got to the slumbering lion wriggling on top. Then, at last, as he stood on his tippy toes, he found himself suddenly nose to nose. Ahem. Pardon me. Wake up, Mr. Lion. You've got company. Squeak, Mr. Lion? I've come to you for is a squeak. Do you think you could teach me your roar? A silence befell that twinkling plain. Lion opened his eyes and puffed out his mane. Time slowed right down. Why? It felt like a week. Then he opened his mouth and let out an eek. The lion was shaking, his paws of all fumbled. He was backing away with the scrambled tumble. Don't hurt me, he whimpered. Oh, try to be nice. Well, my goodness, this lion was frightened of mice. Don't worry, Mouse peeped. I'm a friend, not a foe. Let's rock this together. We'll have fun, don't you know? That was a magical moment for sure, when Mouse didn't feel at all small anymore. He'd found his true voice and learned to speak out, and for that you don't need to roar or shout. And from that day and always, the two were a pair. They both liked that rock better. Now that rock was to share. The mouse, while still little, felt big in his head. And Lion, he still roared, but with laughter instead. Yes, that day they both learned that no matter your size, we all have a mouse and lion inside.
Cool story, huh? I hope you liked it as much as I did. Imagine being so small and having to confront something so big. And imagine being so big and being scared of something so small. Well, I'm glad that both the mouse and the lion were brave and had courage to overcome their fears. Do you have something in your life that is really, really big? Well, how do you overcome something that is really, really big? I know, Well, a wise person once told me that courage is only fear that has said its prayers and then is brave enough to go forward anyway. I really like that saying. And we have someone very, very special that can help us with that. Do you know who that is? Yes, you are so right. It's Jesus. When you talk to him through prayer, he can give you the strength and courage to be brave. And always remember that Jesus is there for you. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's epic time. That's all from me, Debbie, and Doggy. Until next time, ka kite anō.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this segment of Perhaps at Your Place today called Your Place, Your Story. And today I'm excited because we get to talk to the awesome Keely and Jaden, who are life group leaders. And so Jaden, Keely, thank you so much for joining us today for Your Place, Your Story. First question, because not everyone is aware that you guys are life group leaders or that you are part of a life group. So I guess the first question is, who is part of your life group? How long has your life group been meeting? And maybe how often do you guys meet?
So our life group is mainly people like just a few years out of high school and maybe just finished uni, during uni, that kind of age group. And we started our life group just before the first lockdown. So we're pretty used to everything on Zoom by now.
Man, that's buzzy. Most of your life group experience has been online, which is actually quite crazy. But yeah, I guess a question following on to that is, how has lockdown affected your life group? And you can, it can be either positive or negative, but I'm just wondering, how has it affected the way you guys would have run life group?
Yeah, so I'll answer this. So I guess it goes for most people and most things on Zoom. I guess there has been a sense of disconnectedness because we're not seeing each other face to face, which does suck. But at the same time, to completely contradict that, I've actually had up to 2-hour conversations with people afterwards, just checking in on them and having the most random of conversations, which has been a really big upside of lockdown as well.
And that's interesting because if you were in person, right, you'd have to rush home after your meeting. It's but since you're at home, you kind of just have, in a way, a lot more time to chat.
Exactly.
What about you, Jaden? Is there any thing you want to add there? Any difference that life group has made now that it's been in lockdown?
One thing that stands out for me is like the lack of food. Usually we come in with some food just to commune with each other like Jesus did with his disciples all the time. It's usually a good way to like connect with each other.
I guess just a final question, just to wrap up. Because you guys have been part of a life group now for about a year. What is it about life group that makes you want to lead it, or why is life group important to you?
So as I've said before, doing life as a group is literally what life group is. And I guess an added bonus to that is that we're friends as well, and through doing life group we're able to not only understand each other as people a little bit better, but we're also able to delve into the Bible as well. And I guess after we've had those Bible discussions, we can just hang as a group, which is about life group as well. Awesome. So combining all of those together just makes it worthwhile, and it actually is really cool to be leading alongside Jaden in this as well.
That's awesome. Jaden, what about you? Why is life group important to you?
I quite enjoy life group because we're all the same, like roughly the same age, but we all have varying opinions, and it's awesome to just like take in what other people say and try and like understand and make yourself better, as well as trying to help each other out as well. So when it comes to the Bible, someone might talk about a point that you wouldn't have thought before, which can really expand your mindset.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that there's such a variety of important things or reasons why life group is important to us. And I just thank you guys so much for sharing that with us today. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. And yeah, as you guys continue to grow in relationship with each other and God, just pray that it'll be awesome. So yeah, thank you so much for encouraging us and reminding us that we don't have to do life alone. And I'm so grateful that you guys do that. Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Don't do life alone, Papster family. You know, life groups is so important. And I'm grateful that our 360 young people are part of life groups. And so many of you are. You know, this idea of a life group, a safe space to connect, to be real, to have open and honest conversations. You know, this concept is really countercultural if you think about it. You know, our culture today is kind of geared towards projecting this image of ourselves. I mean, social media, Instagram, Facebook, all these things are great, but oftentimes we can get lured into this idea of projecting an image of ourselves. See, these things aren't bad. You know, it's not bad to take a photo of your family and put it up on Facebook, or if you're feeling up to it, taking a selfie and posting it up on your Instagram story, whatever it is. See, these aren't bad. But when the likes, when the comments are geared around and revolve around an image that we project, I guess a question that we must ask ourselves is this: who knows the real you? Who knows the real you? You know, this question underpins everything, and the reason why we wanted to take our 360 young people on this journey called B.R.A.V.E. In a little while, our young people are going to share with you their experiences and what they learned, their highlights from this online B.R.A.V.E. course that we did over 6 weeks. But right now, we're going to listen to a song that really captures this tension, the struggle that we all have with this inner voice in our heads that sometimes says to us, hide, don't step out, don't be bold, don't be vulnerable, hide who you really are. Let's listen to that right now.
All of my fears, they keep me here. And every day the walls are closing in. I can hear them calling out my name. The terror is growing.
Don't move. Don't speak. If you want to live, try not to breathe. To stay alive, you hide who you really are. Hide who you really are. Can you remember who in the Bible were the first people to hide? It was Adam and Eve. After the serpent tempted them to disobey God, what did they do? They hid from God. And you got to ask yourself the question, why would they hide from God? The God who created them, the God who created this beautiful place, this garden for them to meet all their needs. Why would they hide? You know, they hid because their picture of God changed. You know, the devil loves nothing more than to get you to change your picture of God, to skew, to distort your picture of God, to see God as someone who's vengeful, who's angry, who's all about judgment. The Bible is very clear when it says this in 1 John chapter 4, verse 8. God is love. You see, love isn't just what God does, it's who He is. And what I love about God in this story is that even though Adam and Eve disobeyed Him and sinned, guess what He does? He looks for them. And can you remember what He says? He says, where are you? Where are you? In other words, why are you where you are? Adam and Eve, why are you hiding from me? Why are you hiding? This is what B.R.A.V.E is all about. See, B.R.A.V.E echoes the words of God and says, why are you hiding? You see, ultimately what makes us brave is the fact that we have a God who loves us unconditionally. A God that searches us, looks for us, even in our shame, in our hiding, in our disobedience. We have a God of love, a God of grace, and a God of forgiveness. Amen, church? What a beautiful picture to hold on to. So the question is, what does it mean to live the B.R.A.V.E way? Well, B.R.A.V.E really is an acronym, and it revolves around 5 key components that are outlined in the word B.R.A.V.E itself. B is for bold, R, resilience, A, advocacy, V, vulnerability, and E, expand. Now, rather than listening to my boring voice over the next 20 minutes, I thought I'd make things a little bit more interesting this morning and invite some of our 360 young people to share with you their experiences of what they learned in our 360 B.R.A.V.E course and to share with you how they are choosing to live the B.R.A.V.E way every single day of their lives. So let's hear what they have to say.
My name is Sue and I took part in the 360 B.R.A.V.E course over the last couple of months. The session that really stood out to me was the first session where we talked about being bold. A time I was being bold was when we first heard Rainbow's End's all-famous Fearful. After all the stories my brother had told me, I wasn't sure I wanted to write it anymore. He told me when you fall, you feel like your stomach is floating inside. I was mostly scared when it was time to get on. But I did it anyway, and it wasn't bad. My brother was just over-exaggerating. But in the end, I had a lot of fun, and I was happy my stomach didn't fly away. I learned that you won't know until you try, and to try is to be bold.
Kia ora team, my name is Michael. I was lucky and fortunate enough to be a part of the 360 B.R.A.V.E youth group this year. And in one of our sessions, we were able to learn the letter B from B.R.A.V.E and what it stood for, and that was bold. As a group, we understood that being bold meant being confident in yourself, having self-belief, going out into the real world with a sense of fearlessness, being courageous, being brave, and most importantly, just being yourself. I think for a lot of us people, we've been taught to act a certain way, to be a certain way, to live a certain way, which is not exactly healthy for the people around us and ourselves. And we understood that to break that mold, or to break that cycle of trying to be someone that we're not, is to implement being bold into our lives, whether that's doing something different from your family and friends, learning something new, speaking your opinion on a specific topic, or just whatever, because at the end of the day, we all want to live a happy and fulfilling life, but to do that, we need to be confident in who we are, who we truly are. So I encourage all of you guys, including myself, to be bold, to learn something new, to do something different, and most importantly, to be yourself. Because what matters most is your relationship with God and what He says about you, and not what others say. Sure.
Hi everyone, my name is Levi Davidson, and I took part in the 360 B.R.A.V.E course over the last couple of months. The session that really stood out to me was resilience. This was my favourite, as this topic made me think about how I'm resilient in my life. As we went through the session, Maya shared with us a quote that read, "The best view is after the hardest climb." This related to me in many different ways, like school and sports. This related to me the most with rowing. As I reflect on my rowing 2020 season, the quote that Maya said had never been truer, as the best view is always from the hardest climb. When joining rowing, nothing could prepare me for this climb ahead of me, from waking up at 5 a.m. to training 3 times a day. I would always think what would come of this as I progress through the season. This is because the true measure of success in this sport depends on the countless hours put into it. This mindset of resilience helped me even when I wanted to quit, and made me stronger. And because of this, meant I got to race in the Māori Cup and take bronze. Joining these B.R.A.V.E Zoom calls helped me reflect and open up to different people in our church community. From discussing with peers to listening to people's life stories, this helped me to think, reflect, and question what was being talked about, and would definitely do it again. Thank you to William and your team for setting this up for us.
The R in B.R.A.V.E stands for resilience. We started our session on resilience by doing an activity where everyone had to turn off their videos on Zoom and all the screens were blank. Then I read out a series of statements and questions, and if that statement or question applied, people would turn on their videos. There are questions like, have you ever been heartbroken? Have you ever lost a loved one? Have you ever felt alone or afraid? Quickly, we saw a majority, if not all, videos turn on for each question. We got to see how adversity affects every person, and therefore the importance of learning and practicing resilience is essential for every person. We then shared what got us through tough times. For Hannah, it's Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. For Drew, it was to always remember your why, or your reason to carry on and push through. For Jazz, it was the understanding as a little girl that there was nothing that she could not handle with God on her side. For Maya, it's talking things through with people, listening to the advice of those that have gone through similar things and following through with that advice. It was a beautiful time of sharing, and needless to say, we learned quite a lot about each other and what we have been through and how we all struggle to keep going sometimes. We then focused on the 3 secrets of resilient people that was shared by resilience expert Lucy Hone in a TED Talk last year. Lucy studied resilience abroad and came back to New Zealand to assist those in Christchurch that had experienced the earthquakes, to help them build their resilience when tragedy struck her own family and she lost her young daughter in a car accident. Suddenly, everything she had learned and researched and taught others, she now had to put into practice for herself. She found that the top 3 things that helped her and so many others when faced with adversity were these. Resilient people understand that in this life, bad things happen to everyone. They understand that when adversity arrives, they are not being discriminated against, and they don't ask, why me? And this helps with acceptance, a huge step in building resilience. The second thing that resilient people have is the ability to tune in to the good. Knowing and understanding what you can control versus what you can't. Focusing on not losing what you have for what you have lost. And practicing gratefulness daily. Asking yourself at the end of each day, what are 3 good things that happened today? The third secret of resilient people is that they ask themselves this question: is what I'm doing helping me or harming me? Is the way I'm thinking and acting helping or harming me? That very question puts us back into the driver's seat of our lives. It's us being able to step back and discern what is good for us and what isn't when we're going through a really tough time. So through this, we found that we can either lock ourselves in a room, bubble wrap all around us, and never let ourselves experience any kind of adversity. Or we could let the adversity we do experience take over and control our lives. Or we can choose the brave way, which is accepting that tough times are gonna come, but choosing to rise above them or fight through them. So, this week, I challenge you to make an intentional, deliberate, ongoing effort to tune in to what is good in your world, so that when adversity comes up, it'll be so much easier for you to focus on the good things. You can do this by making a poster that is displayed in the kitchen or the living room of your home, reminding you and your whānau to be thankful every day. You could start a gratitude journal, or you could set an alarm on your phone for the same time every day where you just stop and are thankful for just 3 things. Whatever it is, I would love you to introduce gratefulness into your everyday family life and see what happens when we choose the brave way and focus on the good.
Advocacy. The act of speaking on behalf or in support of a person, place, or thing. It's looking at the way in which we respond to different situations, whether through flight, fight, or freeze. During our B.R.A.V.E session, we discussed each of these responses and how they link to us. We used the analogy of a beach ball, and we discussed how, as humans, we oftentimes suppress our inner thoughts and feelings under the water or under the surface until the pressure becomes too great and eventually bursts up from underneath us. Through our B.R.A.V.E session, we found that the only way to effectively advocate for ourselves and for others was to express our true emotions and be able to listen to others and their true emotions. Being able to use I statements such as I feel this when such and such occurs allows us to openly express our emotions and feelings, to be heard, but also to hear others and their thoughts, emotions, and feelings. For someone that's into science and pathology, it was interesting to see how our brain relates to stress and how it impacts both of these. We looked specifically at the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the frontal lobe. Our amygdala is known for quickly responding to stress and threats, and when triggered, it sends a stream of messages throughout our body to our adrenal glands, which release adrenaline. This results in our body going into fight, flight, or freeze mode. For example, if there was a lion chasing you, your amygdala would quickly recognize that it was a threat and stress, and send adrenaline so that you could quickly run away from that lion. Ever wondered why you can't remember anything when stressing before an exam? This is because stress causes the hippocampus in our brain not only to lose its long-term potentiation and plasticity, but also some of our memory, which doesn't help when you're trying to remember things. However, our frontal lobes, specifically our prefrontal cortex, is the most important when it comes to stress. It allows us to control our emotional responses to stress, essentially so that we don't get too stressed out. How amazing is that we have an area of our brain that basically calms us down? So, during the discussions that you'll encounter during lockdown, and I'm sure there'll be a variety of ones, I challenge you to take a minute to think about what we've been sharing. Express and advocate your emotions in a healthy and well thought out manner, whilst also being readily available to listen to others and their perspectives as well. Respond to situations using your frontal lobe rather than using your amygdala and your hippocampus. Although at times this will be difficult, through doing so, true advocacy for yourself and others.
Kia ora, my name is Sarah and I took part in the 360 B.R.A.V.E course. The session that stood out to me was on advocacy, which is speaking for something, whether this is a cause, a place, or a person. We talked about self-advocacy and how we can best advocate and communicate what we stand for and what we believe in. The brave way to self-advocate was to express your true self in a healthy way and take time to listen and acknowledge others expressing themselves. Advocacy is such an important skill for all people, but especially for young people, to give them a voice and method of communicating in a healthy way where they feel heard and encouraged to listen to others as well. The Bible is filled with people that advocated the needs of others and themselves. Esther, Moses, Nehemiah, and through advocacy, real change happened for nations. Advocacy plays such an important role in our history and in our everyday life. So knowing how to advocate is so important. Through our B.R.A.V.E session on advocacy, I learned how to better advocate and stand for my own beliefs and create space for others to be heard, because that is how positive change can really happen.
The V in B.R.A.V.E stands for vulnerability. And vulnerability within the B.R.A.V.E program was defined as the courage to show up and be seen, even when you don't know what the outcome's going to be. You know, I always thought that vulnerability was like revealing your deepest, darkest secrets and outing all the mistakes that you've ever had, but it's actually way more than that. And it was through B.R.A.V.E that I was able to understand that. You know, B.R.A.V.E actually said that vulnerability is the birthplace of creativity. And I thought that was really interesting. So there were 3 points that the person who quoted this came up with. And these are the 3 points that entail that vulnerability picture, that creativity picture. The first one is the courage to be imperfect. And hey, this is a great example. You know, I'm not the most perfect speaker, but hey, I'm here trying to share my thoughts on vulnerability with you. The second thing is giving yourself the space to be who you really are, to be authentic, to be you. And the last point is being kind not only to others, but also being not too critical of ourselves. And those 3 things give you a space to be creative and a space to be vulnerable. You know, I kind of define vulnerability as being your true self. So I would also thought I'd like to share, 4 healthy ways of dealing with vulnerability. The first is letting yourself be seen, loving with your whole heart, practicing gratitude and joy, and believing that you are enough. So hey, I thought I would practice vulnerability with you all, and I thought I would sing a song. No, I'm just kidding. I thought I would actually share a poem that I wrote a while ago, and it was entitled Masks. So, someone just asked me, how was your week? Before I even think, my mouth speaks. It was great. I'm always happy. When my brain is engaged and my thoughts rearrange, I remember what life actually looks like for me. You see, my life is a breeze. I may have thought how useless I am multiple times this week. I may have felt so much pain that you couldn't believe. I may have doubted my worth, my place, and my dreams. But today it's Sabbath, so I'm always happy. Life is bliss, but only in front of you. Sometimes those around us teach us to mask our flaws. But vulnerability means to be true, so maybe your weakness when conquered can help you to soar. My life is real, my feelings are real, my pain is real, and so am I. But my God is real. His feelings are real. He can take my pain, so why should I lie? You can be real. Take off your mask. God wants to transform your future, shower love on your present, and heal your past.
Happy Sabbath, everyone. My name is Drew, and I took part in the 360 B.R.A.V.E course over the last couple of months. The session that really stood out to me was vulnerability. Going through this word really stood out to me as I'm the type of person that doesn't like to be vulnerable, I guess, like at all. I feel like I just grew up like that. As a kid, my family and I didn't really express our real, genuine feelings, especially our hurt. To me, I never did because my parents, my role models growing up never did. And my parents to this day are the strongest people I know. And because they never showed us their soft side of their feelings, I thought it was because they would present themselves as being weak. So I always felt obligated not to express my feelings as it was, to me, so-called form of weakness. And I feel like a lot of us tend to misunderstand vulnerability as being that, as being weak. I think if my family and I were to be vulnerable with each other from the start, all pride and ego to the side, it would be 100% easier to actually do now. But because we never did, I've struggled to open up about how I feel in certain situations. But through our B.R.A.V.E session on vulnerability, I learned a lot. I learned that vulnerability is in fact powerful. It is stronger than hiding it and trying to act tough, perfect, and put together. I gained an understanding of ways of dealing with vulnerability. There were 4 unhealthy and healthy points that we went through. And 2 that stuck out to me were firstly that we tried to pretend, when instead we should be believing that we are enough and that there's no need to hide what we're feeling. And secondly, that we tried to numb vulnerability, when instead we should be letting ourselves be seen. Talking about vulnerability, the definition that was given was having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. After hearing that, in a way to me, vulnerability is kind of a form of confidence. Like to share your true emotions, feelings, knowing that you could potentially get judged for it, that's confidence to me right there. And vulnerability nowadays is quite underrated, especially as a teenager. Like a lot of people my age tend to hide a lot because they fear others may judge, think, and treat them differently. And I totally get that. Before, I hated the thought of telling others my emotions and hurt because I disliked the feeling of being treated differently because of it. I disliked the feeling that they'll probably end up feeling sorry for me. I genuinely just disliked sympathy, honestly. I thought that my hurt and emotions would define me as a person, but I sooner learned that it actually makes me the person I am today. I've learned that expressing my feelings expresses my true self. I'm being authentic with my hurt by being vulnerable. I'm fighting that pain by letting it out. See, because if we continue to hold it within, it will just continue to grow to the point where all you can think, breathe, and feel is that hurt. And I realized that the things we do to avoid vulnerability ends up causing us more pain than vulnerability itself. We need to stop pretending and feeling numb. Don't be afraid to be seen and to get inside our mental that we are more than enough and that we've always been enough. I know this is probably a bit deep, maybe dramatic even, but yeah, I learned that being vulnerable is stronger than we know. It is more helpful than we know. Being vulnerable is raw and real. And being vulnerable heals. If you can't be vulnerable with the people around you, give it all to God. We can't deal with the emotions and feelings on our own. But yeah, God is always there right beside you. But I am truly grateful I attended that Zoom session because I learned something that I can now apply into my life. Something you don't just learn at school, you know? And yeah, to this day, I can't lie, I'm trying to be more vulnerable. But as long as I'm creating those steps, I'll soon lead to reaching that stage. And I hope you guys have learned something from what I've learned and will maybe uphold what I've shared today and do the same. Being vulnerable is scary, but pure. Vulnerability, from what I learned, is a strength, not a weakness. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Ash and this is Brooke, and we took part in the 360 B.R.A.V.E course over the past few months. The session that really stood out for us was the one that we had a few weeks ago, which was about the last letter of B.R.A.V.E, which is E, which stands for expanding or expand. This stood out to me because a few weeks ago, Pastor Will taught us about how we can influence others and they can influence us. The word expand focuses on expanding our minds to understand the perspective of others. What I have learned from this is that we are all influences on others, and by listening to everyone's different point of views, it expands our understanding and develops our perspective. Through our B.R.A.V.E session on expanding our skills, I learned that expanding our skills will help us improve in what we do. An example of this for me is basketball, because to become better at it, you don't need to be the tallest or to have the best gear, but instead it is about developing your skills and techniques.
The E in B.R.A.V.E stands for expand. In this session, we talked about expanding our skills, perspective, and influence. So first we talked about constantly expanding our skills, asking ourselves, do we have a passion for learning new things, or are we happy to stay in our comfort zone because we have a fear of failure? Secondly, when expanding our perspective, we talked about the importance of seeing things from different points of view and how what we see depends on what we are looking for. Lastly, we reminded everyone of the fact that they all have the power to influence and asked ourselves, what are we doing with that influence? I think this topic of constantly expanding ourselves is super important, not only for our young people, but also for our adults. I'm currently studying at Laidlaw College, and if there is anything I have learned in the past year and a half of studying to be a teacher, it is that we are trying to encourage our students to be lifelong learners. Learners who maintain a growth mindset, for it is this type of mindset that is able to overcome any challenge they may encounter. So, this week I challenge you all, no matter how old you are, to ask yourself if you maintain a growth mindset. A mindset that is passionate about learning. A mindset that can see things from more than their own perspective. And lastly, if you are someone who has a positive effect on the people around you.
Wow. Aren't our young people amazing? That was just a small snapshot of what we have been experiencing as a group over the past 6 weeks, and let me tell you, it has been so powerful just being able to share and to listen to everyone share about how living the B.R.A.V.E way can be so beneficial for all of us. About being bold, not constantly comparing ourselves to others and not refusing to learn from others, but knowing that confidence comes from who we are and not what we do, and that we are all created with a unique personality for a purpose. Being resilient, accepting adversity and choosing to rise above it, and making an intentional, deliberate, ongoing effort to tune in to what is good in our world. Advocating for ourselves, expressing our true thoughts and emotions in a healthy way, and being able to listen to someone else express their true thoughts and emotions as well. being vulnerable and seeing it as a strength, having the courage to show up and be seen without having any control of what that might mean, and always looking to expand ourselves, expanding our skills, expanding our perspective, and expanding our influence, always learning and always growing to be the best we can be. I found myself saying over and over again during our B.R.A.V.E course, if I had only known this when I was your age, if only I had thought about these things when I was in high school, all the heartache it would have saved me. But the truth is, it is never too late to learn more about yourself. It's never too late to add tools to your tool belt to help you navigate relationships and work and life balance. It is never too late to want to grow and to learn and to be the best you can be for your family and for your community. So, as we close today, I encourage you to have a think about what the next step is that you can take in living the B.R.A.V.E way. Is it getting to know yourself better? Taking a personality test? Looking again at your shape booklet? Are you going through a tough time right now and need to build your resilience by using those 3 steps that we talked about earlier? Do you need to advocate for yourself more, either at work or in your friend group? Do you need to change your perspective on what vulnerability means and can look like? Or is it time to expand your skill set and learn something new? Whatever it is, I really encourage you, along with our young people, to think about what that next step could be and do something about it. Talk to someone, hold yourself accountable in some way, and let's all be the best we can be for our families, our community, and for our God. We started this with a song that depicted what can happen when we don't live our true, authentic, brave selves, who we really are. And we're going to end with one that I think depicts what can happen when we do the opposite of that. When we choose to live our lives to the fullest by being the best version of our authentic selves. When we live the B.R.A.V.E way, that is when we truly come alive.
You stumble through your days, got your head hung low. Your sky's a shade of gray, like a zombie in a maze. You're asleep inside, but you can't shake awake. 'Cause you're just a dead man walking, thinking that's your only option. But you can flip the switch and brighten up your darkest day. Sun is up when the colors blinding, take the world and redefine it. Leave behind, you never mind, you'll never be the same. Come alive, come alive. Go and write your light, let it burn so bright. Reaching up to the sky, and it's open wide, you're electrified. When the world becomes a fantasy and you're more than you could ever be, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. And you know you can't go back again to the world that you were living in, 'cause you're dreaming with your eyes wide open. So come alive. I see it in your eyes. You believe that lie, that you need to hide your face. Afraid to step outside, so you lock the door. But don't you stay that way. No more living in no shadow. You and me, we know how that goes. 'Cause once you see it, oh, you'll never, never be the same. We'll be the light that's turning, fire up and keep on shining. You can prove it's for you, you cannot be afraid. Come alive, come alive. Go and write your light, let it burn so
just want to thank you for this time that we've been able to think about what truly living and being alive means. Living our lives to the fullest as the best version of ourselves. And Lord, as we talked about being bold and being confident, we've talked about resilience, advocating for ourselves, being vulnerable and expanding. I just pray that as we think about what the next step is for each of us to live the brave way, that you be in every one of those thoughts we have. May you be in every action step that we take. Because Lord, we just want to be the best we can be for our families, for our communities, and for you, Lord. So as this week, as we take some steps towards that, be with us, keep us safe until we meet again, hopefully really, really soon. Thank you, Lord. We love you. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us today for the 360 takeover of Papster at your place. It has been such a powerful time, and I hope and I know that you have been blessed as much as I have. But we will see you back here, same time, same place next week. But until then, stay safe, be kind, stay connected with each other and with us, and remember to choose to live the brave way.